Good morning. All right, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So my name is Lolli. I'm the founder of Discover HR Consulting, and today I'm going to tell you about my entrepreneurial journey. So I'm originally from New Jersey, born and raised out in New Jersey. Very thankful for my time there. Definitely learned a lot during my childhood as I was growing up with my family, friends, and just the hustle bustle of New Jersey as it is, right? It's definitely got an aggressive nature to it. So that's kind of where my journey started. I realized, throughout my childhood that I really needed to continue to expand my horizons, and the only way that I knew to do that was to go to college. So I decided to sign up for 4 years plus another couple years on top of that with my MBA, so bachelor's in HR and an MBA. So while I was at college down in Virginia, I was going through some business courses and came across human resources management. So human resources management is one of the general courses that you have to take throughout business, and I quickly realized that HR was an amazing way to be able to invest in and develop people, which is what I'm extremely passionate about. And right around the same time, as I was doing the HR course, God was working on my heart, and he was really calling me away from myself, not focusing on myself too much, but starting to focus on and serve other individuals. So it kind of just, had a connection with HR and God calling me to serve other people. And there really is no better platform that I can think of to be able to invest in and develop people than through HR. So after I finished my education, I jumped out into the workforce. I was a recruiter, HR generalist, then I was a director of HR. And during my stint as being a director of HR, I had an amazing opportunity to lead a leadership development training course. So it was all the executive team coming together, and we were going through this leadership development course that I was training them on and leading them on. And I kind of had this epiphany of, we focus way too much on what we do, and we do not focus near enough on who we are. So you see that in businesses a lot too, right? Where we're always talking about the what, right? We're always talking about the product, the service, but we're not talking enough about the people, and we're not talking enough about who we are as individuals and as a collective group. So after leading that course, I quickly realized that I needed a platform to be able to invest in and develop people nonstop, all the time, 24/7. This is what I was going to do. So kind of thinking through that, I obviously realized that the only way I really could do that is if I started my own HR consulting company. So that's how I came to create Discover HR Consulting. And now I'm spending my time not just on the transactional piece, but I'm spending my time on the transformational piece. And I can't leave out my family. Anytime you have an idea and then you take it to your spouse and your spouse blesses it, you know it's a good idea. So my wife, she blessed that idea and encouraged me to pursue it. So I started thinking about, who I want to be, why I want to do this, what types of services I'm going to offer. And as you can see, in front of you here, I have my service offerings along with business card, which will be towards the end. I have an ask or two of you as well. But that is my entrepreneurial journey in a nutshell. I'm so thankful to be in front of you today and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Let's talk about what the process looks like working with you. If somebody comes to you as a business owner and says, hey, I just need some help. I don't know where to start. What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So when someone comes to me and I just launched in 2021, landed my first client a couple months ago, and so working with my first client, great experience. I'm going to do an HR assessment or an HR audit right off the bat with you. That way we can go through every single aspect of HR, every function of HR, and recognize where you're strong, where you're weak, and then we can start really honing in and focusing on the areas that we can improve the most on. And also not forgetting, what you want as an organization, right? I know you come to me and you're asking for a service, so I want to deliver that need that you're asking for, and then at the same time also say, hey, you know what? I know you're asking for this specifically, but after this HR audit that we just did, I'm seeing some gaps here, where we can jump in and improve in some other areas. And that's kind of how HR works, like with other functions of business, right? They all kind of support each other. So if one area is strong, it kind of strengthens the other area of your organization as well. Good question. Thank you. Yes?
Is it Lewis? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, you got it.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to know, how did you migrate from Jersey to Colorado? Being in Jersey a lot myself in my life, I'm wondering how that transition happened. But secondly, when I worked in corporate life, HR, human resources, think about that phrase, that word. It didn't seem to be very high on human or resources, but it seemed to be very, and so how does your organization make a difference where it's really touching the human component of business and creating the resources that they need to excel in business, especially from a culture that pushes back?
Yeah, okay, yeah, two great questions. So to answer your first question, I met my wife down in Virginia at college. So I was in business school and she's a nurse. So she was going to nursing school at the time. And so we had some mutual friends and connected that way. And my wife is originally from Colorado. So she was born here in Colorado Springs. She spent some time in Woodland Park. And then most of her childhood was up in Aurora. So her family is here, and that's why we decided to move out here to start our family. We felt like Colorado was just a slower pace than New Jersey, and well, it was more affordable at the time, but maybe not as much anymore. And then for your second question, so you really need to capture the executive team, the C-suite, the leadership team in the organization, right? You have to win hearts and minds, and you have to show them the value added when you invest in and develop people. And the reason is because the employees of your organization drive the customer experience, right? There's an employee experience that's happening internally for your internal employees, your coworkers, yourselves. And then at the same time, those employees are gonna drive the business for the customer. So they're the ones that are on the front end, they're connecting with the client, they're delivering the service or the product, and you want it to be top-notch. Well, there's no way you're gonna have a top-notch service or product if the employees of your company are disengaged, they're not well-trained, they're not rewarded for their performance. It's kind of like the Walking Dead, that's what I call them, right? They're the Walking Dead. They show up, they're not productive, they're there, right? But they're not present at all. They're not present in mind or heart or spirit. They're not bought into your why. They don't carry out your mission. They don't live out your values. And so they're not representing the company well, and in turn, they're not going to give a great product or service to your clients. So that's how I would recommend engaging and kind of turning your culture around.
So tell us about your personal transformation and how you started that journey.
Sure. Yeah, so in college, kind of like I said during my brief presentation, I started to realize that I was way too focused on myself, that it wasn't about me. If you think life is about you, well, you're wrong. It's not. And if you want to live an empty life, well, you can just continue to focus on yourself because that's the emptiest life that you could have. But when you start reaching out to other people and you start investing in other people and you see how much of an impact it makes, in their life, in their family's life and whoever else they're connected with. That's kind of where my transformation personally began, is recognizing that HR was an opportunity. It was a tool to be able to build relationships, number one, and then show people that they have someone in their corner. And so I just didn't want to spend my life focused on myself. I really wanted to focus on other people and be there for other people in different ways. So that's kind of where my transformation began. Hopefully that answered your question. Yep.
Talking about a transformation, so you and I are Yetis, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We talked about this. Human resources professionals generally enter their career knowing that they're going to work for someone else. You kind of need employees, right? You go into a corporate career. It's a comfortable career. And most HR professionals like to be comfortable with routine and rhythm. What was your transformation in realizing that aha moment that you could do this, that you could be an entrepreneur, and what pushed you over that cliff?
Good question. So I would say not becoming another member of The Walking Dead, right? So I was realizing that I was going into work at my organization and I wasn't as passionate as I used to be about what I was doing. And I think a part of that was most of my time was being spent on the transactional piece of HR, right? Like just posting the job, doing the interview, doing the hire, or creating the benefits package, writing the benefits brochure, creating the benefits plans, doing the open enrollment, getting everyone enrolled, and moving on. It was just becoming too routine and too mundane, and I knew that I needed to step out and I needed to challenge myself. I don't like to be complacent. And so I think that's where it began, was right there, was starting to realize, wow, I'm not as passionate as I used to be, as I was when I stepped into HR 10 years ago, when I began my career as a recruiter. And so I needed another platform to re-engage with what I love most about HR, strategic planning, developing culture, developing leaders, investing in people, developing people. So, yeah, hopefully that answered your question. Yes, sir.
I want to do a follow-up because you're so intriguing to me. And I mean that sincerely. And we're so glad that you're here, that you're a part of our community and what you're doing. This menu is pretty all-encompassing here. So I'm going to challenge you on something. I think Discover HR Consulting is limiting as a name for what you present to the community. Because when people think of HR and you get locked into that, old things about HR are really what leads people's thoughts about HR, and it may not open enough doors for you with this limiting name that you have as your business with this much stuff on your menu. So would you consider that as a possibility that it might be limiting your opportunity to enter businesses and for people to really discover who you are?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Any ideas for a new name you'd like to throw out?
Because he was talking about how he likes to invest in people and help people discover who they are and that development piece. So I think with your messaging, you could tie into that discovery piece of finding that passion, investing in that person, and helping people develop themselves, because that's a journey of discovery in itself as well. So I actually that name actually resonated with me a lot, as well as the story and messaging. I think that actually is what ties together. And then your menu is kind of how you do that process.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The problem is if people are locked into an idea of HR, and he's offering this many things in his menu, he may never get into the door to discover. That's what I'm looking at. So we need to break down barriers to get into the door, so Lewis can actually they can discover who he is and vice versa.
Yeah.
So that's the point.
Shaking that corporate stink is one of the biggest hurdles in what he's doing right now.
Yeah, I agree.
What's that?
Shaking the corporate stink from HR
Absolutely.
is one of the biggest hurdles.
Yeah, yep.
I see both sides of what you're presenting. I agree with you. I do think that people need to rethink HR. I think people need to, including myself, right, I need to redefine what HR is. Because like you said, you know, it's more than maybe what it appears on the surface.
Yeah, it's even negative at times. I remember when I had to go to HR, I never was twirling and tap dancing down the hallway to the HR office, right? And there was a negative connotation that was, and that's still a big thing in business.
And that's a part of that is HR's fault. You shouldn't just be seeing our face every time there's going to be a consequence or there's going to be a negative interaction. We need to be coming to you. We need to be proactive and come to you and praise you, right, when things are going great, and have that, you know, have that communication going. So I agree. I'm going to go with her in the back first.
First of all, congratulations on stepping out and doing this yourself. I have a couple of questions. So HR is a bear, and a lot of people are intimidated by that. How do you make that exciting? What is your differentiator? Why would somebody want to take you on as a consultant to work for them and to help develop that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So HR, in my opinion, should be a part of laying the foundation, right? So strategic planning is where I would start, and I would go to that organization or whoever I was working with, and I would say, hey, you know, before we start like adding layers, we need to make sure the foundation is really solid. So let's go back and let's challenge your mission, let's challenge your vision, let's challenge your values, and let's challenge your goals that you have been communicating or not communicating to your employees. So that's probably where I would start and say that's the difference, is you really have to have an extremely strong foundation as an organization. Because if you're not fired up about what you're doing, you know, if you're not gung-ho about what you're doing, there's no way your employees are going to be excited about what you're doing, and there's no way your customers are going to come back to you. They're just not going to be interested in being a repeat customer. And so I think a differentiator is focusing on the experience. It's creating an amazing experience for your employees and an amazing experience for your customers. That's what all of these top companies are doing, whether we realize it or not, right? Like Disney, Marvel. I mean, Marvel, they're crushing it in the theater or, you know, in cinematics, simply just because of the experience that they're creating for their customers that are coming in and watching their shows or watching their movies. Same thing, you know, when you go to Disney World or Disneyland, all those different locations. They're creating an experience that you love, and then you go and you share that experience. And that's how you build a business, right? You create an amazing experience, and then those people go out, word of mouth, and they spread the word and talk about the experience that they just had. And hey, you need to come experience this, right? Like, I went through this, you should try it. So I think that's my differentiator, is creating an amazing experience. That's really my sole focus. Like, through all of my HR services that I offer, at the end of the day, the end result is creating an amazing experience.
Yeah, so I'm really curious where like your passion lies. So when I look at the list, I attribute half of it maybe to what we'd call working on the business, and then half of it's working in the business. So one, you know, the strategic planning and culture, learning and development, that's almost like invested in human capital, and then the other, legal compliance and everything, that's more of like the human resources in my mind. Like what lights you up more? Is it more the on the business or the in the business?
Probably the former, the first, right? Like strategic planning, culture, leadership development. But at the same time, I can't detach myself from reality, right? So I need to stay connected. I need to kind of be on the front lines, in the trenches, so to speak, because a lot of issues that business owners are dealing with are legal and compliance. They are employee relations. They are technology. So I can't forget the practical side of the business either. And I do believe that both are extremely important. Like the transactional stuff, it's extremely important because that's how you keep your doors open. That's how you keep your business running. That's how you generate a profit. The transformational stuff is kind of what adds on top of that, right? So you kind of have your baseline of how does the business operate day in and day out, AP, AR, all those kinds of functions. And then on top of that, you have the transformational piece. That's really gonna excite people and make people feel valued. They're gonna wanna come back because they believe that you care about them. And so that's how you show that you care about them.
We have time for one more question before the super special question.
So it sounds like in order for you to transfer all this passion and revive employees and make HR a part of the organization, that you have to first discover what is that real, force of life in the organization, probably for the business owner. So how do you do that?
Relationships. It's all about building relationships. So I have to, do something like 1 million cups, or go and join a networking group, or give a presentation, right? I need to just continue to put myself out. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're misunderstanding, I think. I'm asking how you connect with the business owner to understand their passion so that the whole culture has the livelihood. So
you're talking about after I've already kind of like met them and have an agreement with them, and now I'm getting to know them more?
That's what
so something like that? Yeah. Yep. Okay, so maybe this will sound blunt, right? This could be a hard truth, but I'm not going to be able to work with everyone. And I realize that from the get-go, right? So there's consultations that I've done where I've met with the president or the CEO, and I quickly realized this was a check the box. This is not about actually investing in developing people. This is just a front to say that I have an HR consultant who's here and he's gonna make it better. Well, that's not how it works. The executive team, the C-suite, every manager, supervisor, they all have to be bought in to actually caring about people. And if they don't, it's not gonna work, because I could come in and I could do an amazing job, right? And I can offer excellent HR consulting services, but the moment I leave, the culture is gonna live or die from the managers, the supervisors, the leaders of that company. So yeah, I have to get to know the business owners, build a relationship with them, and find out what they're really about. If they're actually about wanting to make a difference in their employees' lives and their customers' lives.
All right, who would like to ask a special question?
Oh, come on. There we go.
What can we as the Colorado Springs community do to support you?
So, two asks that I have. First is, on your table, there should be a list of the services that I offer. If you could read through the services, and you can hand it to me, after all of this is over, but give me feedback on the way that the services are written. Does it make sense? So as a business owner, if you read this, are you reading value added to your organization? Yes, I read this and I see the value in bringing on these services. Or is there too much HR jargon in there, right? Does it not make any sense to a business owner? So if you could give me some feedback on the services and the way that I've written them out, that would be amazing. And then the second ask I have is, I'd like to hear from business owners, from yourselves, what challenges you're facing right now. You know, what HR-related challenges are you facing, so that I can think about those challenges and think about solutions to those challenges if they're not already created, you know, create a solution for that challenge.